G'day ladies and gentlemen. So the AFL have got content for me. They've released the full 2022 AFL fixture and we're gonna react to every single round, see which games should be enjoyable, you know, if they've got all the time slots correct and everything. Pretty much we're just gonna have a look at the fixture and just, you know, react to it. So without further ado, let's have a look at how the fixture looks like. Alright, here we go. So the full fixture has been released. They just dropped it on me about a few minutes ago. A lot of you have already seen the round one fixture, I know, from other videos, but let's just run through it quickly. D's versus Dogs on the Wednesday, which I feel like is a very interesting one. I'm not sure if I'm a massive fan of having a Wednesday night game. Would have still preferred the Thursday night, you know, traditional Carlton v Richmond. But, you know, it's just going to be a little bit different, I guess. I think the main reason why they put this game on Wednesday is because obviously the D's, a lot of Melbourne D's fans couldn't see like the premiership win over in Perth. So, you know, they just want to give him a little bit of, you know, they're obviously going to, you know, unveil the flag on that night. So it'll be good to see, and it'll be a good game, that one, the D's versus the Dogs at the G. It'll be a very good contest. Then we got the Saints versus Pies, which I should be going to on the Friday. The Battle of the Bridge, I think they call it, on the Saturday at 5:50, which is interesting. And then regular other games that I would look forward to on round one would be Brisbane versus Port Adelaide and sort of Hawthorn versus North Melbourne. That could be an underdog good game in round one. Alright, round two. Now we see the full fixture start to go out. Thursday, the Dogs versus the Blues. Sydney versus Geelong on a Friday should be a good clash. What's another game that could be a good clash in round two? Tigers versus Giants at the G. Hardwick, can't complain. It's not at Marvel this time. So if they lose that one, you can't be like, oh, but we don't really like Marvel Stadium. So that would be good. Other games that should be good. Maybe Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn could be a sneaky good one. Essendon versus Brisbane at Marvel could also be a sneaky good one. The rest of them are pretty, you know, average matches, but it is what it is. Round three, baby. Let's run through this quickly. Oh, that's a classic Thursday night clash. The Dogs versus the Swans always turns out to be a good game. That one, it was last year when the Swans caused an upset in Marvel Stadium, so that should be a good Thursday night game. Two Friday night games. Wow, okay. And they're both pretty decent ones. Obviously, the Showdown is a very good one. So obviously one of them broadcasted on 7, which I maybe will be the D's versus Bombers. But this one could be the Channel 7 broadcast. I have no idea. But yeah, it's interesting to see two Friday night games for once. This one should be a good one. Collingwood versus Geelong always turns out to be a decent game. That one. Saints versus Tigers should be a good one. The classic derby in round three. Last game, I really wish a derby got a Friday night game instead of like a late Sunday game. But, you know, they seem to be doing that one. So it is what it is. This Sunday actually seems to be a pretty decent one. Blues versus Hawks, Saints versus Tigers, and then Eagles versus the Dockers to finish off the week. So the weekend, so that will be good. Round four, we got the Power taking on the D's at the Adelaide Oval. That one should be a good contest. Then we got, who else do we got? This one should be good as well. Geelong versus Brizzy. Or the Tigers versus the Dogs on the Saturday night. That should be a classic as well. Any other classics? Obviously, the Hawks versus the Saints always turns out to be a pretty decent matchup. Pretty unpredictable games, those ones. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that one. Then we move on to the Easter weekend. We got the Lions versus the Pies, the classic Easter Thursday game. And then, you know, the Friday ones. Obviously, we've got the 4:20 game between the Roos and the Dogs, which hopefully should be good if the Roos turn up this year and, you know, Bruce doesn't kick 10 goals again. Eagles versus Swans on the night game. That should be a decent one as well at Optus Stadium. I can see the Swans getting up and about for that one. D's versus Giants. Saturday night game should be alright as well. That should be alright as well. Crows versus Tigers, depending how the Crows kick off their season. Then we got the classic Easter Monday clash as well between the Hawks and the Cats, which should be good. It always is a good clash, that one. We head on to round number 6, kicking off with the Giants and the Saints. Any good clashes here? Port Adelaide versus West Coast. We all know that's a good clash to watch. It should be good to watch. It's the twilight game as well, so that should be a good one. Good fun game. Sunday, 7:25 on a Sunday. What is happening there? Oh, right. This is the Anzac weekend, so that does make sense. Anzac Day Eve would be that one then. That makes more sense. It's a bit of a weird one, but we'll go with it. 2 games. Oh, Hawthorn versus Sydney. It was Hawthorn versus Adelaide this year. They've changed it to Hawthorn versus Sydney, which I think could be a classic at UTAS Stadium. So, and then obviously we got the classic Anzac Day game, which I'm hoping to go to as well this year. Get a vlog of that. Kicking off round 7, a good game between the Eagles and the Tigers. Then we got the Cats taking on the Dockers. Geez, that would be an interesting one if the Dockers, turn up this season. D's versus Hawks seems to be a good clash, no matter what the circumstances are. They got a draw last season, and obviously the D's got the win over them earlier in the season last year as well. So that should be a good contest on the twilight game. This should be a decent one as well. The Blues taking on the Roos. Normally, though, the Roos do get up and about, so we'll see how the Blues go in that one. And then, this could be a good game as well. The Swans versus the Lions on the Sunday. As we move on to round number 8 here. We got Port Adelaide versus the West. So 2 Friday games again. I don't know what's happening with this sort of fixture layout, but we'll see how it goes when the day comes. Port Adelaide versus the Dogs, and we got Freo versus North Melbourne. So that's an interesting Friday night for you. Richmond versus Collingwood, the 1:45 game as well. So that I should be going to that one. Should be a ripping contest at the G. We all know what happened last time when the Pies met the Tigers at the G. So Sydney versus Gold Coast has turned out to see some good clashes as well, so that should be decent. And then we got Essendon versus Hawthorn, which should be good. GWS versus Geelong should be good as well. So this Saturday, turning out some good games. Brisbane versus West Coast as well. And then the Sunday games, pretty casual. D's versus Saints could be an alright contest on that Sunday. Moving on to round 9, Collingwood versus the Dogs on the Friday night, which should be a good contest. Normally is. Hawthorn versus Richmond, the 1:45 on the Saturday. That should be good as well. Sydney versus Essendon. We know how those contests goes. I believe it was like a 1-point win to Sydney last time at the SCG, so that should be a ripper game for the Saturday night clash. So they've done well there, putting that one on Saturday night. And then West Coast versus Melbourne to finish the weekend. That should be a ripper contest. Hopefully no lightning stops play this time and all goes well. Then we move in to, the dates and times not being confirmed, but we can see the games. Carlton versus Sydney should be good. Geelong versus Port Adelaide at Geelong should be a good contest of that one. Hawthorn versus Brizzy at UTAS as well. That should be an alright contest considering Hawthorn got an upset win over the Lions down there last year, so that should be interesting to see how that one goes. Then we got, so this must be Dreamtime weekend. We've got the Tigers taking on the Bombers at the MCG this year. Hopefully all goes well, that happens. And we got the Dockers versus the Pies, which has turned out to see some good contests as of late, so that should be a good way there as well. Round 11, Collingwood versus Carlton. Carlton got the win in I think it was the last round of the second last round over Collingwood last year. So that will be an interesting game to watch. I'll be going to that one. Hopefully the Pies get up in that one. Any other really good games? Sydney versus Richmond has turned out to be, a good contest as well. Port Adelaide versus Essendon could be a good one. And the Eagles versus the Dogs always surprises me in what that game brings out of both teams. So that should be a good game, that one. Hawthorn versus Collingwood in round 12. That should be good. Hawthorn versus Collingwood. D's versus Swans should be good. Dogs versus Cats. So those 3 games should be rippers. Then we got the casual ones here. Freo versus Brisbane has turned out to be a good contest over the past few years, though. So that should be a good game, that one. Round 13, here we go. So Collingwood have gotten the Queen's Birthday Clash, it seems like. So that will be the Monday game. Essendon versus Carlton happening in round 13. Always a decent contest. Richmond versus Port Adelaide at the G should be a ripper contest as well. So a few games to look forward to in that round. There we go, round 14. Giants versus Dogs at Giants Stadium. That should be a ripper of a contest as well. We all know the rivalry between these two is heating up, and it's only going to get better and better as we move forward. Richmond versus Carlton should be a classic. Just hopefully the round 1 game is a close one as well, so this one will be good as well. Then we got Port Adelaide versus Sydney, Saints versus Essendon. So these 3 games, this whole weekend actually, besides maybe this game, is a pretty decent weekend, and obviously this is where the buys will start kicking off in round 14, unless they kick off in round 13 as well, and I missed it. Round 15, moving on. Carlton versus the Dockers seems to be a good contest normally. Obviously we had Mackay kick, I think it was 6 or 7 last time they played at Marvel Stadium, so the Dockers won't be hoping for more of the same of that. Collingwood versus GWS seems turning out to be a spicy contest, this one. We got the Cats versus the Tigers, which, always seems to be a good contest nowadays. Dogs versus Hawthorn could be a ripper one, and obviously the Eagles versus the Bombers should be a good game in round 15 as well. Round 16, at the Gabba, we got the Brizzy Lions taking on the Western Bulldogs, which should be alright. Any other good contests in this one? Essendon versus the Swans at the MCG. Last time they played at the MCG last year, that was a good game. Both teams got high scores in that one, so hoping for more of the same in that game next year. Then we got the Tigers taking on the Eagles at the MCG, which should be a good one. Adelaide versus Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval. We know what happened last year with the potential deliberate out of bounds, and then Adelaide winning by a point, so that could be a ripper game, that one in round 16. Round 17, we've got the what do we got? Good games here. We've got the Cats and the D's at GMHBA Stadium. That should be a good contest considering what happened last time. The good old 40-point plus comeback from the D's. Hawks versus Adelaide could be a good one. They played some, decent contests last year, so this one could be a good game in round 17. Swans versus Dogs. We all know that this game is, like I said before, it turns out to be a good contest, so I'm expecting that one to be good at the SCG as well. And then sort of the Port Adelaide versus GWS should be a good contest in round 17. These two have, got a bit of hatred for each other the last few years, so that should be a good game. Moving on to round 18. Well, Carlton versus Geelong at the G could be a good one. If, Carlton have a decent start to the season, I can sort of see Carlton getting up in that one. We'll just have to see how the teams go, obviously, next year. GWS versus Brisbane should be a good one in Canberra. The Hawks versus the Eagles at the MCG could be a decent one as well at the G. You never know how that game could turn out. Dogs versus Saints, normally a good contest, so that would be good to see. Adelaide versus Collingwood at the Adelaide Oval, where Collingwood won by 5 points last year thanks to Jamie Elliott's heroic 6 goals, so that could be a good contest at the Adelaide Oval. And we got Melbourne versus Port Adelaide in the Northern Territory, which could be good as well. And then Freo versus Sydney as well. So a lot of good games to look forward to in round 18. In round 19, we've got the Pies versus the Bombers, which should be a good one. The Tigers versus the Dockers should be a good one as well. Who else? Oh, the Dogs versus the D's at Marvel Stadium. Glad we're getting a double for the Dogs versus the D's next year. And Port Adelaide versus Geelong as well. That should be a good one at the Adelaide Oval. Normally have a few close contests between those two teams in Adelaide, so that would be good. Moving on to round 20, we've got the Pies taking on Port Adelaide, which should be a decent contest. Obviously, last time at the G, Port Adelaide won by the singular point. In that comeback game, Geelong versus the Dogs at GMA3A should be a good contest. I'm literally just going off last year, but we know that Gary Rowan kicked a goal after the siren, and there's been a few close calls in Geelong versus Western Bulldogs games over the years, so that should be a good contest there. The Tigers versus the Lions at the G. I actually really want to see that one at the G, because it would be a good contest if both of these teams get up and about in season 2022. And then we've got the Battle of the Bridge as well, which should be a decent game. Moving on to round 21, we've got the Cats taking on the Saints at the, maybe not, it's in Geelong, so this could be a Cats easy win. Maybe, it depends how these two teams go. Melbourne versus Collingwood getting the double this year. So Melbourne will host a game over Collingwood, as well as Collingwood hosting the Queen's Birthday clash against Melbourne earlier in the season. And then Port Adelaide versus Richmond should be another good game. Not a lot of good games to look forward to in that one, but you never know. There could be a few good games coming into that round, considering that we don't know how the teams will look in 2022 as of yet. Port Adelaide, Essendon versus Port Adelaide at Marvel should be a decent run. One in round 22. I reckon that one may be the Friday or Thursday night game. Richmond versus Hawthorn could definitely get a shout for a Thursday, Friday night game. So could Sydney versus Collingwood as well. No surprise that Sydney get a home game against Collingwood. I would really love to see Collingwood versus Sydney in Melbourne, but I don't think it's going to happen for a while. We get the double derby, obviously, this season as well. And then the Dogs versus the Giants again. So the rivalry gets a double in season 2022. As we move on to the last round of the season, Lions taking on the D's. Carlton taking on Collingwood. Essendon taking on Richmond. So very good contest to get the season done. Obviously, we've got the rivalries there. Then we've got Geelong versus West Coast at GMHBA. Hawthorn versus the Dogs down in Tassie, which seems to be the normality at this point throughout the last few seasons. And then the Saints versus the Swans, and then we get a showdown. I'm assuming the showdown may be the last game of the round, or it could be a Saturday night or Saturday twilight game. We'll see what they fixture it on to be. But yeah, that is the 2022 AFL fixture. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, my reaction to it. And yeah, I'll see you when I get back from Adelaide. I'm going to Adelaide. If you didn't see the community post this weekend with Ethan, there should be a vlog of that. So that will be something to look forward to. And yeah, cheers.